Hello, Blue Jays fans, and welcome to Sunny Side of the Dome. I'm your host, Karen Soutar, and I'm here to talk some Blue Jays baseball with you for the next half hour or so. Sunny Side of the Dome is brought to you by Jays from the Couch. We stream live Thursdays at 6 p.m., and you can catch us live on Facebook, Twitter, or our YouTube channel. And if you are tuning in live and you think of a question or comment that you'd like to add, please do send them on in. I love that interaction with the listeners. I think it makes the fan just that much better. And excuse me, sorry. If you didn't catch the live version, but you still want to check us out, no problem. When you're ready for us, we're ready for you. You can catch the archived version on any one of those aforementioned Medium, Facebook, Twitter, or the YouTube channel. And if you like the content here at Sunny Side of the Dome, there's lots more where that came from. There's Jays from the Couch's main podcast. We've got episode number 300 coming up. Wow. Shaun Doyle, our founder, senior editor, he just does a great job with that show. Always got lots of people on there, whether it's a couple of couchers or various other guests, lots of interesting stuff going on. And that you can actually catch and download as a radio podcast if you wish. At Apple, Google, Stitcher, quality podcast carriers, they've got Jays from the Couch. And the other YouTube show, which you should definitely check out if you haven't been, is The On-Fact Circle. That's hosted by my Jays from the Couch colleague, Steve Beck, Tuesdays at 6 p.m. And Steve's always got a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. Smart guy, fun, funny, unique, very interesting perspectives. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. The On-Fact Circle, Tuesdays at 6 p.m. And good evening. Happy Thursday, Blue Jay fans. Long time no talk. Darn scheduling conflicts sometimes. However, I'm back. I'm very happy to be back. How's it going? I hope everybody's doing well. And if you're a Blue Jay fan, you're probably doing pretty well lately, because our team has been doing quite well overall, and definitely lots of good stuff to talk about. So definitely get into that in a bit. Excuse me just a moment. Before I get into the heart of the order, so as usual, leading off transactions, and since it's been a few weeks, there's been a fair bit going on. So I don't want to spend the whole half an hour just talking about that. So I'm going to do the best that I can to summarize things. So in the past few weeks, we saw Kevin Biggio, who had been struggling a lot with the bat. He was actually optioned down to AAA Buffalo, but he wasn't there for all that long. I guess the Blue Jays saw what they needed to see from him while he was down there, and they brought him back up. And it was when he was brought back up that Vinny Capra, who had been with the Jays, was optioned back to AAA. So all the best to Capra. Hope he gets another chance at some point, be that with the Blue Jays or somebody else. I thought he was a decent looking player. We didn't really see a lot of him. They want the regulars to play, obviously, if they're healthy and able to play, but good to have Kevin Biggio back, and more on him in a bit. So yeah, lots going on with the pitchers, unfortunately. So Hyun-Jin Ryu, the last time I did one of these shows, he was on the injured list. Well, he came back, and he had a few starts, and the first few starts were pretty good. His results, he didn't allow many runs. He just wasn't going deep into games. He lasted maybe 5 innings, if that. Then, unfortunately, his last start really wasn't good. Gave up a few runs, really didn't look all that sharp. And now Hyun-Jin Ryu is back on the IL, and all we're hearing is he is likely to miss multiple weeks. and has gone for some second opinions. And so I don't know. To me, it's not really sounding that good for Rio. I mean, we know that he's 35 years old. He has pitched more than 2,000 innings professionally between his former KBO team and Major League Baseball, and he's had some injuries in the past. So, well, I wish him the best for his sake and for the Blue Jays that he could come back and pitch effectively. That there isn't too much about this situation that would shock me. So, stay tuned. We'll see what happens there. Andrew Vasquez, he was called back up. He's been with the Jays. He actually, unfortunately, in his last outing yesterday, he ended up having to leave with an apparent injury. But he's sort of had some mixed results there. He's a left-handed pitcher. A lot of people have wanted another left-handed pitcher, along with Tim Meza, who I'll get to in a second. But assuming we can have Meza back healthy at some point and someone else, maybe that could have been Vasquez, but not looking great, and especially now that he seems to be injured, and we don't yet know how serious that is, or we'll see, but all the best. And yes, Tim Meza, so he's on the injured list, and he actually is on a rehab assignment now with the Buffalo Bisons. So see how that goes. Actually, his initial results in his first outing weren't all that great. And maybe hopefully it's just rusty and he just needs to pitch another time or two to shake that off and get back to me being the very effective Tim Meza that Blue Jays fans have come to really like. So all the best, and when you're ready, come on back. Julian Merriweather was called back up. Excuse me just a moment. And yeah, Julian Merriweather, aka the Enigma. I mean, all the talent in the world in that arm and his arsenal, and he can't seem to find consistent results in Major League Baseball. He had a couple of outings, scoreless outings back to back, and I thought, okay, maybe don't want to get my hopes up too high, but has he maybe turned a corner, figured something out? And then his outing after that, he gave up a run or runs in an inning, and I'm afraid that the team is never going to be able to really count on him, which was so unfortunate. But I mean, they're in win now mode, and they need guys that can help them do that. As Charlie Montoyo said right around the beginning of this season, he said the Pope's a nice guy, but he's not helping us win any games. So they need talent that is going to help them win now. Nate Pearson, who maybe could be part of that talent, let's hope. He's on a rehab assignment also with the Buffalo Bisons. Now, a couple days ago, he was transferred to the 60-day injured list, and a lot of people really reacted to that, thinking, oh no, is he nowhere near ready? Is he going to be out another 60 days? No. Relax. While I myself don't know when Nate Pearson is coming back to the Jays, he's already missed more than 60 days. He hasn't pitched in the major leagues yet this season. So they did that retroactively, and they could literally activate him tomorrow if they wanted to, if they felt that he was ready. But it's simply to clear a spot on the 40-man roster because they needed to add Matt Gage. So interesting story there. 29-year-old made his major league debut with the Blue Jays, and he's pitched in a couple of games. Left-handed pitcher, has been all over the place, minor leagues, independent ball, pitched in Mexico, and now he's with the Jays, and apparently he's done some different things along the way, whether it's finding ways to add velocity. But what I'm told from people who have seen him pitch much more than I have is that this isn't just a case of desperation and them calling up anybody who's half decent from AAA. This is a pitcher who, knock on wood, actually has a chance to be a good major league pitcher. And if they could get that, again, a left-hander, he's had 2 outings, hasn't given up a run yet. So wouldn't that be a find if they could get Tim Mesa back healthy, and if Matt Gage ends up being someone who can help them, then they've got their 2 left-handers in the bullpen, and they can move forward and look at other needs. And speaking of, yes, Trent Thornton, he was called back up. They needed some fresh arms, and a little bit of what they had in the major leagues wasn't working very well. And unfortunately, a part of that longtime Blue Jay, he was the longest tenured Blue Jay, Ryan Borucki. He was out of options, and he really wasn't pitching well enough to hold on to his spot in the majors. So he was designated for assignment. A couple of days later, he was traded to the Seattle Mariners for a minor league infield prospect, Tyler Kinham. So, Tyler, welcome to the Blue Jays organization. And Ryan Borucki, I always liked him. I thought he had terrific talent. What I know of him as a person, he seems to be a good guy. And I kept rooting for him to turn around, and it's really never happened with the Blue Jays. So, all the best. Hope he finds his stride back again with the Mariners, as long as it's not against the Blue Jays, and all the best. So, yes, Jeremy Beasley was added to the Jays. He was called up, really didn't do well, was with the Jays briefly last year, didn't do well, gave him another chance, and again, he didn't do well, and now he's back in AAA. So that's kind of been a bit of a revolving door as far as the pitching goes, and I mean, some of what they've got is working, and they keep looking for other guys that are going to stay healthy and help them win. Now, last but not least, the catching situation. So Tyler Heineman, remember him? So he was optioned, and he was actually claimed by the Pittsburgh Pirates. I was a bit caught off guard by that move. I'm not saying that Tyler Heineman was going to be the savior for the Blue Jays or anything, but I looked it up and I thought he had options. But I think it was a situation where he was pretty far down on the depth chart as far as the Blue Jays and their catching situation. And at least with the Pirates, he has had a chance, hopefully, to catch a lot more than he would have with the Blue Jays. So all the best to him. Danny Jansen, he was on the injured list. He was recalled. He was healthy, came back, continued to hit pretty well for the most part. And then a few days ago, he was hit on the hand by a pitch. And now he has a fracture, and he's back on the IL. And they're saying that as fractures go, it's not as bad as it could be, but he'll miss a minimum of 2 weeks, and they'll reevaluate him in 10 days or whatever it is. So, poor Danny Jansen. I've always liked his talents. He has had some mixed results in Major League Baseball, but I thought this might be the year that he puts it all together, and he still might, but he's just had the worst time trying to stay healthy. And while some of his prior IL stints are a bit of a concern, because you're wondering, is his body starting to break down? So certainly getting hit on the hand by a pitch is nothing to do with his overall health. So see how that goes, but all the best to Danny Jansen. Come back soon, get healthy, and all of that. Zach Collins, he was optioned to AAA, but with Danny Jansen going on the IL, he was called back up. So he's been back for a bit. He actually hit a home run and a double yesterday. So Collins can hit a little bit. He hasn't been all that consistent, but every now and then he has his games. And last but not least, and this isn't official yet, I haven't seen this announced by the Blue Jays, but a lot of accredited media people have announced it to the point where I'm pretty certain that it's the truth. So the Blue Jays' #1 prospect, 4th overall in MLB, who we've been hearing about for quite some time, not quite to the hype extent of Vlad Guerrero Jr. when he was a prospect, but maybe just a notch under that. Gabriel Moreno, the catching prospect with a huge, huge upside, is apparently joining the Blue Jays on the road in Detroit and hasn't officially been activated yet. But the plan apparently is to activate him sometime during this upcoming 3-game series against the Tigers. So I don't know about you. I'm excited to see him. I don't want to get my hopes up too high because, as they say, that there's no such thing as a can't miss prospect. But I mean, in the past, where sometimes I err a little bit on the side of caution in my own thinking. When they brought up Kirk in 2020 or Manoah in 2021, I was a little afraid that it was too soon and it might be more than they could handle. But you know what? The front office knew what they were doing. They know better than I do. And those two guys, it really worked out well. And I think they know what they're doing where Moreno is concerned. So excited to get a look at this young man and see what the future holds for him, and hope that he can help the Blue Jays win some games. Win now, as they say. So those are the transactions. And now, finally, to the heart of tonight's order. And I wanted to talk about the team, but with a focus on the offense. So, as anybody who follows this team is already aware, they've had their ups and downs. They had a really good start. Then they kind of went through a bit of a slump for a while there. They were 2-8 at one point over a 10-game period. And in particular, the pitching, the starting rotation at one point was looking very, very good. And the offense in the preseason, what everybody said, this is going to be one of the best offensive lineups in baseball. A lot of them, they just weren't producing. And people were wondering, where the heck is this lights out offense that everybody's been talking about and expecting? And some people who I follow on Twitter and so forth, even went as far as to say that, you know what, maybe they're not going to get better. Maybe this is who they are. Maybe some of the success that they've had in the past, that the league has adjusted to them, and they're just not going to adjust back, and so forth. Well, they woke up, and anybody who thought that, they're proving the doubters wrong. So, over a 14-game period, back on May the 24th, they scored 8 runs. And I saw somebody on Twitter say, well, it's great to score 8 runs, but you don't want to have a letdown in the next few games. They really need to keep it up. And in that 14-game span since then, their average runs per game has been just under 8. It's been 7.86. So that's darn good. It's exciting, personally, for me to see these guys, a lot of them living up to their potential, things that they've done in the past, and talent that I knew that they still had. But again, it's going out there consistently and making it work. So from May 16th, so a little bit before May 24th, when they were winning, they were still winning the close, low-scoring games, which is fine. I mean, those wins count as well. But from May 16th through June 8th, the team is 16-5. So one of the hottest teams in baseball, to be sure. Going back to the offense, so there's a place on the MLB website. You can go into team stats and you can look back over the last 15 days. So I thought, okay, that pretty much matches up with the timeline that I've been looking at as far as the offensive resurgence. So in the last 15 days, games, runs scored, 88. First in Major League Baseball. Batting average, 301. First in Major League Baseball. On-base percentage, 380. First in Major League Baseball. Slugging percentage, 537. Also first in Major League Baseball. And obviously, if you're first in Major League Baseball in on-base and slugging, then you're going to, it only makes sense that you're going to be first in OPS as well, and they are. 917. Way to go, guys. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it, whether they figured things out for themselves whether it's the hitting coach. A lot of people were saying they need outside help like they've had over the last year or two with Dante Bichette or whatever it is. And I haven't heard that anything else is going on. Maybe it is. I don't necessarily hear about absolutely everything behind the scenes, but whatever you're doing, guys, keep doing it because it's working and it's a lot of fun. I mean, winning those close, low scoring games is great. And you have to be able to do that if you're going to win it all. Because sometimes you run into really good pitching and you're not going to go out and score 8 runs every single game over 162 game schedule or the playoffs. But it's fun from a fan standpoint to see a lot of runs. At least that's how I feel. And it's fun to be able to have a nice convincing margin of victory, which they've had in a few of their games lately. So better times. Don't give up on this team if they go into a slump, whether they went into a slump before. If I mean, ultimately they're going to lose some games for the rest of the season, but I'm hopeful and I'm confident that they're going to continue playing well overall, and it's going to be a fun season for us with some playoffs to look forward to. Excuse me. So, now, looking at some individual results, we've looked at the team, the record, how they've done as a group with the hitters. So, looking at OPS over the last 15 days, how many hitters do you think of the Toronto Blue Jays had an OPS over 800? Any guesses? Anybody thinking about it? Well, I'll let you know. So, led by Alejandro Kirk, who's been absolutely phenomenal, especially lately, at an OPS of 1.440. Wow. he just keeps hitting and hitting and hitting some more. Teoscar Hernandez, he struggled after coming back off the IL, but he's finally back to doing what we know that he could do, and his has been 1.021. Next after that, who's been red hot pretty much since the calendar turned May, Bo Bichette, 1.012. We know that Bo Bichette can hit, and I mean, again, those early season struggles, they weren't going to last forever. Next up after that, Santiago Espinal. What an amazing season he has been having. On both sides of the ball, his defense has been terrific at second base. His OPS in the last 15 days, 895. So again, Espinal, thank you for it all. Keep doing what you're doing. Ronald Tapia, who had him next? I wouldn't have guessed if I hadn't been looking at the numbers myself. Ronald Tapia, who a lot of people were willing to give up for dead, had an OPS in the last 15 games of 890. I mean, what is he doing out there? Did they suggest a different approach to him? Because whatever it is, he just looks like a completely different hitter out there. Next up, speaking of players that some people were willing to give up on altogether, Kevin Biggio. OPS in the last 15 games, 878. I'll take that from him absolutely any day. I mean, he's looking a lot more like the Biggio of old, and between Biggio and Tapia, say that 5 times fast. I mean, there's a couple of left-handed hitters who, in the past couple of weeks or so, have been producing. Now, maybe it's too small a sample size. Maybe the Blue Jays are still out there looking for a different left-handed hitter, one who's a little bit more established and consistent this season. I don't know. But if those two can keep up what they've been doing for the rest of the season, maybe they don't even need to go outside the organization for a lefty. Maybe those two can fill that bill. Wouldn't that be great? Getting back to my list. So we're not done. Next up behind Kevin Biggio, Matt Chapman, 873. His hitting, he's one of several Blue Jays that got off to a slow start with the bats. And maybe some people thought, okay, well, his main value to the team is his defense, and for the most part, other than maybe one or two shaky games that he had with the glove, he's just been so consistent there and made so many plays that most other third basemen probably wouldn't have made. So even in that way, it's been great having him at third. But he's starting to look more like a hitter and a very valuable hitter. Um, Yes, it's been great to see him get back to hitting. Next up after that, Lourdes Gurriel Jr. Also 873. That's funny. I don't know if I wrote that down wrong. Anyway, Gurriel Jr. is definitely next. Has hit well over 800 in the past, or OPS, excuse me, well over 800 in the past 15 games. Those of us who've been watching Gurriel's career know that he's been streaky, and unfortunately, he got off to a slow start with the bat, but he's heating up, and when he heats up, when he's hot, he can be one of the hottest hitters in the game of baseball. So great to see again. And the last hitter who had an OPS over 800 in the last 15 games, George Springer at 831. George has been mostly consistent all season and has provided some pretty good defense in center field as well. Made some really good plays. So yeah, he's been very consistent, and great to have him on the Blue Jays. And yeah, and one name that you don't hear there, so that's all of them. That's 9 hitters. That's most of their regular lineup there. That has been performing as they were expected to. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He's a little bit under that. He's at 788. He's been a little inconsistent this year. I mean, most of the hitters have, unfortunately. It's kind of in a slump, seemed to bust out a little bit. But yeah, and he also he had a day off a while back, and we found out it was due to a sore wrist, and maybe that's something that's lingering. I don't know. I mean, I absolutely have zero doubt about his talent. I really never have. And there's got to be a reason why he's not yet hitting consistently like he did last year when he came in second for league MVP and probably could have won it if it weren't for Shohei Ohtani and all. But I'm sure he's going to figure it out. And the Blue Jays have once again become very exciting to watch. Excuse me just a moment. And on that note, that's almost all that I've got for you today, which brings me to Through Blue Jay Colored Glasses. So, for those of you who pay attention to Major League Baseball, you've probably heard that All-Star balloting has just opened a couple of days ago. So you can go online and you can vote for, well, pretty much whoever you want as far as position players. You can't vote for pitchers, and I'll be honest, I've never really understood the logic behind that rule, but regardless, that's what the rule is. Blue Jays have, excuse me, at least 2 or 3 pitchers that have a good chance to be all-stars. You've got Kevin Gausman, Alek Manoah, and Jordan Romano. So hopefully at least one, if not more, of that group will end up going. As far as the position players, I'll be voting, and I'll be voting for 3 Toronto Blue Jays. That's Alejandro Kirk, Santiago Espinal, and George Springer. Those are the Blue Jay players that I think have put up good enough numbers from the start of the season up until now that they're worthy of representing the Blue Jays in the All-Star game. I've got my Blue Jay colored glasses. I'm a diehard fan, but I also try to be a realist. And I take the All-Star game somewhat seriously in that I'm not going to just go up and down the ballot and check off Blue Jay, Blue Jay, Blue Jay, Blue Jay, if to me their overall season hasn't really warranted an appearance. So those are the Blue Jay position players that I think should be representing the team in LA and Dodger Stadium this July. And then I think back to last year. The Blue Jays had 4 representatives at the Midsummer Classic, and one of them has since left, Marcus Semien. So again, all the best to him with the Texas Rangers. But 3 returning Blue Jays were all-stars just a year ago. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette, and Teoscar Hernandez. I'm still a big fan of all those guys. I still absolutely believe in their talent, that they've just been inconsistent enough over the season, unfortunately, that their numbers aren't quite enough when comparing them to other players in the league, that they should really get the nod instead of somebody else. Now, stop and think about that. You've got three players, position players, who to me are good enough to be all stars this year. You've got three different ones that were all stars just a year ago and who I think have the talent. They've all been hitting much better lately. I mean, that's six guys that were or could be all stars within a 2 year period. That's 2/3 of a regular lineup there. And then you've got the rest of them, as I said, like Matt Chapman, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., a lot of these guys that weren't hitting all that much in previously with the Blue Jays, that their bats have started to get hot. This is one very, very talented team. This is one very special team. And I'm taking a moment right now to recognize that and acknowledge that. And I hope that all of you Blue Jay fans all out there are doing the same, because this is a special time for us. And I have no doubt that the Blue Jays are making the playoffs this year. I still say that they're going to catch the New York Yankees and win the AL East division, and they're going to the World Series. And I see them winning it all. I see them adding a third championship, 92, 93, 2022. So let's keep watching and cheering on our Blue Jays, and the sky's the limit for them. At least I think it is. So, and now I'm done for this evening. So thank you so much for tuning in. It was great talking to you again. Let's go Blue Jays, and I'll see you again next week.